Vepery has the highest concentration of educational institutions in the city. It was once densely populated with Anglo-Indians.
See, Vepery is a cosmopolitan town. You have all kinds of people there. You have the lot of Tamilian speaking people, you have Christian organizations. The Dupton school was there for many, many years. Consequently, St. Aloysius came up, the Salvation Army school came up, the 11 Fabricius school came up. So many schools came up because the demand was there.
The Dufton group of schools, with its origins in 1855 as the Parental Academy, was the center of Anglo-Indian education and association in Vepery.
It was a wonderful school, it was co-education, it was lovely. We used to travel, rock up early in the morning to play cricket, but once Miss Felix comes in, half an hour before school, the show was over, we had to stop.
Why was it so?
Because we kept hurting the girls by playing cricket, the cricket ball. But we had good memories. We used to dodge classes, go to the field to catch kites, and then Mr. Dickers used to come and chase us.
Today, the premises, over 27 acres in all, accommodates 4 schools, 2 for boys and 2 for girls, offering students a choice of the national ICSC or the Tamil Nadu state syllabi. Gwen Hall studied here in the 60s and fondly remembers her classmates.
My best friend was Maureen Hunter, she's no more. June Lazaro, the 3 of us used to be together.
A short distance away is Dufton's feeder school, Oakley's.
Oh, I still remember Mrs. Fernandez, my principal. I remember crawling under the tables and getting caught and being taken back to the class. I think it must have been UKG.
After kindergarten, Lisa moved on to the Dufton Girls' School, well known for its playing fields.
Okay, so what kind of games you all played?
Oh, rounders. Everyone played rounders at Dufton. We started out with rounders and then we moved on to baseball. That was something most Duftonians will tell you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And when it came to athletics, Dufton girls were hard to beat.
The Seto girls were Alison Seto, Jackie Seto, Carol Seto, and then we had Monica Fernandez, my sister Anne Smith, which is now Anne Gregg, and then we had Taryn Shankar, and in fact I've got one of the Seto girls who used to compete with the Seto girls living opposite my place in Melbourne at the moment. Her name is Nicola Mitchell, and after 35 years she's married my classmate, which happens to live opposite me. His name is Ashley Sinner. He was the top sportsman too.
From Dufton.
He studied in Christchurch.
They were very sportive characters, and they took life very light. One thing I liked about them is that they didn't differentiate between any community or caste or the status of the students. They mixed freely with everyone. And again, when they say they mixed freely, if the student was dull or very intelligent, they didn't differentiate between a dull student and an intelligent student. They were free with everyone.
So who was your favorite teacher in Dufton?
My favorite teacher was Mrs. Vanderput. She used to take English and history. She was good in the subject and also good looking.
Okay, was she strict to the students?
Yes, of course she was very strict. When we are up to some mischief, she always pulled us up and we had to write some impositions.
We spoke to a former student who played hockey for Tamil Nadu and was also a junior national gold medalist in the 100 meters.
So when I was in school, you must be knowing Sandra Seto.
Yes.
So all the Seto girls and myself, we were all competitors. And Sandra and myself, till we finished school, we ran together, That was the joy.
So you all were in the relay team together?
Yeah, we had a beautiful relay team. Zonal team, we won till the very end. Our team always won, the relay, and we're very proud of it. So.
She was coached at the Don Bosco Athletic Club by the famous A.J. D'Souza.
And he used to be, there, following the rule book, perfect. Long jumpers were all given the hitch kick training to do it the perfect way. He would train you just, like hurdlers were given canopy training. We don't see too much of all that nowadays.
Okay. Yeah, Dad came out from the British Army. He served the Short Service Commission and joined the Telegraphs. Subsequently, he was so crazy on sports. He was an official for almost every event that happened at Rajaratnam Stadium.
What was the dad's name?
Charles Anthony De Silva. Yeah. So he also went for the Asian Games as an official. with his interest was so high.
Athletics, huh?
Yeah, athletics. And he was a national hockey umpire. He umpired for Murugappa hockey. And he used to assist AJ D'Souza and Dufton Corey for the training of the athletes.
Our sports day was like a mini Olympics. It was run on the same, same format as the Olympic Games. And of course, our inter-house hockey and cricket football tournaments, they were taken very seriously. And then we graduated to the inter-school tournaments.
And where were these tournaments usually held?
All in our Dufton Corey school. We had a fantastic ground. In the early days when Dufton started, the only school that had a 200-meter straight track.
The Dufton School has fostered tremendous sporting talent over the years.
And we had some fantastic athletes like Ashley Tully, who came over from St. Bede's and represented Dufton in inter-school sports. The cricket, we had Alfred Burrows, who also came from St. Bede's and then made Dufton famous for cricket. And like that, even the athletics, the field was really good. We had a lot of very good athletes. The earlier guys, there were big names in like Jeffrey Bayliss, Keith Gilbert, Joe DeCosta, who are all away in Australia now.
The Dufton Sports Academy is one of the best places in, one of the best sports grounds in Chennai, among the schools and other things. I don't know where else, but, and Mr. Wilkins and the group over there, the board members, they allow us to, we are thankful that they allow us to use that. It's a lovely turf, sort of, some kind of grass they imported and brought it over here, but it's beautiful, very beautiful.
We always emphasize on sports because academics alone is not education. And so sportsmanship, team spirit, so many good things that one could learn on the sports field. Dufton has got a name synonymous with sports, more than with the academics.
Is the school management entirely Anglo-Indian?
Absolutely, Anglo-Indian Protestant to be precise. And our name implies we are Dufton Protestant Schools Association.
The interesting aspect about the Dufton Group is that it was started by Anglo-Indians and is not dependent on either the church or the government for its sustenance. The school is not a government-aided one.
But so far as Dufton is concerned, it has always been able to stand on its own 2 feet and manage with its own resources.
So you don't claim benefits from the government?
Absolutely not. The only thing is we are happy the government doesn't interfere with us.
For how long has this been the case? For how many years?
At least for the last 20-30 years.
Will there be an Anglo-Indian college? I ask him.
So it's very much in my mind, and I do not know where the place is. I do not know where we have the land, but I believe if you have that in mind, and if that has been planted in your mind, and you've been inspired that way, then God will make it possible.
Prominent schools in Vepery include St. Matthias, St. Aloysius, and St. Joseph's. I spoke to a former student of St. Matthias.
First thing, it was very close to home, so I could walk down the road to school and back. And my dad was a stalwart over there. He was a pastoral committee member, which actually didn't turn out too well for me because he also kept tabs on my education and if I got up to any mischief.
Keith's mother, who is vision impaired, would certainly agree.
They were all happy. Our children were happy. I tell you, Keith used to go by the dining room window and he'd whistle out to the Ross boys at the side. And they'd all plan to go for a game of cricket or to come and play cricket down in our compound. They were always playing games. There was no TV or anything for the children. Only that radio.
Keith does remember some of his teachers at St. Matthias.
Teachers, we had Mrs. Audrey James, we had Mrs. Jacoby, who was the expert in English, and she would take us in verse speaking, and she was a really good teacher. We had Mr. Saro, who I think has now migrated to Australia.
Keith's uncle, Padre Clare, was for some time a pastor in the historic church on campus.
I love to go to church. We don't miss the services. My Keith, he served as boat boy at the altar. Then he used to carry the cross. Andrea sings in the choir. And Keith, as he grew up, he used to be on the pastorate committee. But now he's too busy for all that, you know.
The St. Matthias Protestant Church was erected in 1823 on the site of a Catholic chapel built by the Armenian merchant Khoja Petrus Ascan in the 1730s. Petrus Ascan is himself buried here.
And I've been part of the St. Matthias for the last 40 years. Every year the church would organize a fete. And that money, we used to build a classroom. Every year, one classroom. Today it's become a full-fledged +2 institution. Built with the money from the church. Today it comes under the control of the Diocese of Madras.
When you say church, at that time, money of the church, would I be right in assuming that most of that contribution came from the Anglo-Indian community?
I would say about 80 to 90% came from the Anglo-Indian, because Matthias is an Anglo-Indian church.
Vepery is full of Anglo-Indians, then it was. So I was happy to be amidst them. Whenever I go out to the marketplace, I meet them, and so many places in the church. So I felt more, it's a locality, I felt more like home over there.
Which church do you go to?
I'm a member of St. George's Cathedral, while my wife is a member of St. Matthias's, which was a bastion and still a bastion of the Anglo-Indians. We've got a large following of them in St. Matthias's.
The non-Anglo-Indians at the time worshipped at St. Paul's Church close by. Today, St. Matthias embraces all English-speaking parishioners, irrespective of community.
The main issue is many Anglo-Indians went to England and went to Australia, leaving hardly, they may be having about 120 Anglo-Indian members there.
And now for St. Aloysius School on General Collins Road. We spoke to a former teacher.
When I joined, we had Anglo-Indians from 1st to 7th standard, only Anglo-Indian teachers. That is two sections, and both the sections would be Anglo-Indians, 1st to 7th.
And a former student.
Mrs. Hart, she was my class teacher in the first year. So she was a very nice lady, very strict with us. And I think she made us pull up our socks, and we couldn't have fun with her. But I think that was what we needed at that age. So.
And do you remember your friends and any close friends?
Yeah, we're still in touch. We have lots of groups going on. And now I think there are about 50 girls on one school group, which is the older girls in fact. And we have a good time. We meet about once in a month or something like that. And the head girl of our school at that time, she's also the head girl of our group at the moment. So we all just bow down to her, and she's our queen. She's always been a queen.
What's her name?
Betty Edmonds. Yeah, she's now Betty Vijayaraghavan.
When I first started working 30 years back, we had a good percentage of Anglo-Indians. But over the years, it kind of dwindled. And by the time I left, 30 years down the line, we were lucky if we had 2 or 3 Anglo-Indians in our class. And the first thing we would look at our list to see if we have Anglo-Indians on a roll, because they were the ones that would help us, with the language and singing and dramatics.
And the students could also get naughty.
As Anglo-Indians, we got fed up of, meat and curry stuff. So we kept looking at all these Tamilian girls, and even before the interval bell could ring, we would all be digging into their lunches and finishing it off, so that was the one fun thing that we used to do in school.
You all did it regularly?
Regularly, and these poor girls would complain when they go to the lunchroom that they had no food for them, and they would all say, these Anglo-Indian girls, they get together, there's nothing left for us. And
so they wouldn't eat your food, obviously.
Because mine would come exactly at lunchtime, and it would definitely be rice and a meat curry or something like that, and they wouldn't eat beef.
And which church did you go to?
St. Joseph's.
Okay. You still go there?
Yes, still go.
Okay.
In fact, we just returned from Mass.
Okay. You have still Anglo-Indians who come to the church?
Very few of them are from Vepery area itself, so they do come. So the Allroyds and the Concessors, they do come, Mitchells.
So that time on Sunday it was like a fashion parade. All the people used to come to church. So many boys and girls in special buses from Perumbo, etc. used to go to St. Joseph's Church.
How come you were loafing around Vepery?
I was staying in Vepery, but memories yet are alive. When I used to fly kite, I used to put 6,000 yards of manja, and I used to fly from 1H, Post-Wakam High Road. That's just opposite Dufton. And I used to remember, I used to fly kite, all the children will come out from Dufton School and shout for that kite. I'll dart it low and take it up again.
St. Joseph's also has a school on its premises.
Father Siva, he kept AI community youngsters together that we didn't stray, smoking, drugging and all the thing. He kept that whole community from, say, boys from the age of 9 to 18. He ran a club. We had hockey tournaments all during the holidays, summer holidays. We used to come from St. Bede's and he was a vice principal in St. Joseph. His contribution to the community should not be forgotten.
I finished my high school in St. Joseph's, which was the final stage of my life. And even there, Mr. Isaiah was a sports master and he really encouraged me. He gave me all the benefits. He gave me all the privileges that I have to have to become a good sportsman and a good hockey player, etc.
I was the athletic captain, which for short put, discus, javelin, 100 meters, 200 meters. And played a little bit of volleyball, cricket of course, since I was a left arm. By default we were never trained, but we just went in and played, so I think I've got some paper cutting still of the thumbs up tournament and things like that with me. And college of course, I was working and studying, so I did not pursue my sports career too much there, at all I would say.
Loyola, is it?
Pachibas, I was in Pachibas doing my evening.
Because there are other Anglo-Indian sports persons in St. Joseph.
I can remember my seniors were Peter Nicholas, he was one of them, Ashley Mikadesh.
I asked him about the athlete Steve Robson.
At that time he was in Dufton because I was in St. Joseph's and they were all screaming for me for St. Joseph's, and when Steve came they were screaming for the same group was screaming because we were 2 Anglos throwing. And he was throwing in the junior and I was throwing in the senior division.
I started my schooling in Dufton Corrie, Vepery, and I studied there till 8th grade. And then I moved on to, since I lived in Vepery, I switched over to St. Joseph's Vepery. Fortunately, the particular batch that I studied in was very strange, that we were 48 students and 36 or 37, if I'm right, were Anglo-Indian boys. And we had guys coming from St. Bede's, St. Mary's, I think Dufton.
If some of us still don't speak very good Tamil, I think it is St. Joseph's to be blamed because the headmaster was so particular that all the boys speak good English. So we made it a rule that if you found anyone speaking in Tamil or Hindi, bring him to the master because he has to speak English. And due to that, quite a few of them speak fantastic English, I would say today.
Another product of St. Joseph's has been Robert Dillinger, Overseas Education and Immigration Specialist.
I'm extremely grateful to the Anglo-Indian community because I would say about 25 to 30% of my entire business all over India are from the Anglo-Indian community.
When he started business, family-sponsored migration was the staple.
However, when the Australian government tightened family migration, we then seen a small group of Anglo-Indian people, I would say more the Anglo-Indian professionals, who were in the field of IT and engineering and accounting and so on. They approached us with the intention of migrating as independent skilled migrants. From 2007 to date, we still do a lot of migration with the Anglo-Indian community. But what we are seeing now is the young Anglo-Indian people. We find they're doing the bachelor's degree in India, colleges like Loyola, Stella, WCC, in all parts of India. And they then approach us to do their master's degree in Australia or even New Zealand. Their ultimate objective is to try and settle down in Australia and New Zealand. We know that.
I ensured that all my children have completed their masters overseas. They studied with their masters overseas. So they always tell me that they have world-class education. They can survive in any country where they want to go. So
your children are back or they are right now?
no, all of them are out. All have settled abroad.
However, in the past, some chose to remain in Madras, like Betty Felix and her sister Celia White, who stay on Jeremiah Road in the heart of Vepery.
And Hunter's Lane was adjacent, full, only Anglo-Indians. Gerard Pereira, the Martins, Beryl Harley, full, Finlays. I had Edith Finlay in my class. Then we had Hunter's Road, Jeremiah Road. Jeremiah Road, we had the Brass. He was the manager of Oxford University Press. Then Humphreys were running Clark's boarding home here.
Sheila Humphreys and
Sheila Humphreys.
David, they were on.
Her mother was running the Clark's boarding home. Then we had Clarence Hotel on Rundall's Road with the Nurses Association. I didn't write down Nurses Association. The tram shed right at the end of Rundall's
So
Road.
it's been at the office, the tram
The tram shed was there.
We were in Rundall's Road for 23 years. We never shifted from there, and you won't believe it, we never had a lock for our door. It was just a latch. We just put the latch.
Even when you go out?
And nobody came, no. At night also it was like that. He'd come from night duty, 12 o'clock, just lift the latch and walk in. We had a number of families. We were upstairs. We had the Huftons staying down below. Then we had the Brooks on the opposite side. And we had a gate outside. So we were very safe. The back of our house looked into St. Paul's School.
Were there trams running during your time in Vepery?
Yes, I remember from Vepery, I remember once or twice, Vepery, Roypeta, that must be 1954, 55, till it closed down.
You never travelled in the tram?
I travelled once with my grandfather to Roypeta.
Okay.
But that was a slow-moving traffic and disturbance to the road, it seemed.
The tram service was discontinued in Madras in 1953. The Nurses Association still exists as a building, not an association, with only one Anglo-Indian, Miss Desmia, all of 97 years, resident therein.
My mum was a nurse, so she was in the Nurses Association on Rundall's Road.
The nursing community dominated by Anglo-Indians, and then the Malayali came in.
But they used to have dances and all this in the Nurses Association in those days.
Dancers were famous women then. Yes. Even the churches, if you see cinematography, we used to have social nights quite often. Yes. The dances.
So the youngsters won't have a taste of all that?
They won't have a taste of all that.
He got married in Nurses Society.
Who?
We bought.
We both got married
In
in
1959.
Okay, so that was a place where you had weddings and dances and all that? Okay.
The Sutter Lodge in Vepery was a well-known Anglo-Indian tenement.
I was in Vepery and I remember with very nostalgic feelings because our gym was in Sutter Lodge and so many Anglo-Indian people were there, families, and such happiness was
You
there.
mean they stayed in the lodge?
Yes, in very small rooms like cells, but yet they preferred that place because it had a small kitchen. At least about 30 families were staying in that.
How about going to the movies in the 1960s, we ask.
Quite a few theatres, but Elphinstone was one of the main ones. We used to go.
Roxy, Minerva, Midland, Odeon,
Casino.
Casino.
Roxy Theatre, they used to screen English
Yes,
movies?
yes.
or-
English movies. English movies. Sunday morning was my day in, till I entered medical college.
By the mid-70s, the trend had changed.
You went for movies in Vepery?
Roxy Theatre was there, the famous Roxy Theatre. Very, very rarely did an English movie come there. So if it did come, we did go.
Keith stayed on Hunters Road, and before that, for many years, at house number 19A, Rundall's Road.
I still remember Rundall's Road. We used to play cricket on the road. And there was such little traffic at that time. Now you can't cross the road. Vepery is completely changed. That's maybe for the better, I don't know, but nostalgically I feel sorry that it's changed.
I asked him if he remembered any of the families in Vepery.
I remember the Rosses, then there were the Cars, then there Anglo-Indians, there were the Wakefields.
Flora has been staying in an apartment complex next to the YMCA on Ritherton Road since the early 70s.
This building was built by an Anglo-Indian called Mr. Finnegan. He was a well-known architect at that time, and it's also very well known because it is the first set of flats that they built in Chennai. And after that, and having been built by an Anglo-Indian, it gives us a little thrill, that we are living here.
Flora had spent her early years in Andhra Pradesh.
Where were you in Andhra?
In a place called Chirala, where my father was working for the ITC company over there, and that's a tobacco company in Chirala. So he retired as the factory manager, and from there he moved on to Nigeria. And after that we came here and we settled down here in this place.
So Vepery has become your home?
It's been our home for a long, long time. So it's very nice being here. It's very central to the station, to wherever you want to go. It's very comfortable, So.
Flora's brother Nigel was a gifted sports person, playing badminton and snooker for Tamil Nadu in the 80s and 90s. He was head coach of the Oman national snooker team during 2001-2004, and in 2013 represented India Masters at the World Snooker Championship held in Latvia. Back to Vepery, and I stopped by the simple yet authentic Smithfield Bakery. I picked up some brownies, banana cake, and above all, butter biscuits.
பல காலத்தில் ஆங்கிலோ-இந்தியன் இருந்தாங்களா இங்கே?
நிறைய பேர் மேடைக்கு தெரு போன தெரு அவங்க தானே ஃபுல்லாக
வருவாங்களா இங்கே?
நிறைய அவங்க தான் வருவாங்க சார். அவங்க போட்ட ப்ரெட்டே வேறு அப்போ.
இப்போ வித்தியாசமாக இருந்தா?
இப்போ வித்தியாசம். இப்போ ஜென்ரேஷன் மாறிச்சு. அவங்களும் இல்லை இப்போ. எல்லாம் அந்த பக்கம் போயிட்டாங்க.
Some Anglo-Indian families, like the Fuchs, stayed on Perambur Barracks Road, close to the Smithfield Bakery. Others were on Bishop's Lane.
What about Bishop's Lane?
Bishop's Lane.
Bruce Hill, another customs officer, was on Bishop's Lane. The Camerons, Smith Camerons, they were all on Bishop's Lane.
Indeed, how can one forget the Smith Camerons, one of whom went on to become chaplain to the Queen of England, and still is.
Was Vepery a very nice place to live in?
Oh yes, very nice, very comfortable. We never had any rogues, no thefts in the compound. We were absolutely safe. I used to cycle as a headmistress to the school.
Betty Felix had taken over as principal of the Dufton Girls' School from Desmond Shaw and was known to be a disciplinarian.
I think that is paying dividends for my students today. Wherever they are, students came in the other evening and said, I'm in America and I'm in a software company. The boss asked me, how do you speak such good English? When I have certain other girls from India who are not speaking English like you do. She said, well, I went to a very good school. What was the name of the school? She said, oh, it was Dufton College.
I sought her thoughts on the Anglo-Indian contribution towards English education in the city.
Well, many of our girls have gone in for teachers training and then they have influence. Now you take your Betty D'Souza. She was an English professor. Most of them went in for English and have imparted that to so many students. So we have been responsible for the good English, not only in our state, but I think the whole of India.
And English education also brings with it a certain openness of thought.
So when I spoke on saffronization of education, the minister at that time was also a professor. He was a doctor, Dr. Joshi, Manohar Joshi. Yes. And he was a physics. So I started by saying, I'm speaking now as a former college professor to another former college professor. And I do not want to politicize the whole issue. And actually it was something that had been very much politicized, highly politicized. And then I said the word saffron actually has good connotations in Hindu religion, etc. I said, and now this term saffronization has been coined by the media. But I said I have been studying the points and I do feel that the recent syllabus has been, the syllabus change, it doesn't seem so much as a change of syllabus, as a kind of a cultural change, I said. It seems to be something more to do with culture than to do with learning. You know, they spoke about, they wanted Vedic mathematics. So I said that Vedic mathematics could be taught at a higher level, but not at school and college level. They wanted astrology. So I said, well, there are so many subjects that need to be taught, environmental studies, women's studies, which need funding from the government. You shouldn't be wasting money on these esoteric subjects like these two subjects. And there was pin-drop silence because I was a member of the treasury benches, openly speaking against the government.
Anglo-Indian schools across the country have done a great service to this nation. Mention must be made of the Frank Anthony Public Schools, fondly called FAPS.
I don't know whether many of you know, Mr. Frank Anthony did not have a sou, as we say in Anglo-Indian terminology. He organized the land from the Delhi government and asked members to pay 50 paisa a month. And that's how the Frank Anthony School started, besides some contributions from Rangers Club and others. That's the way I want to go. I'm going to say, the community, come forward, let's build schools. And we have one more dimension which he may not have had, that is non-Anglo-Indians who have benefited from the community. They've come to our schools, they're friends of ours, they party with us, they like us for some reason, they want to be like us for some reason. Boss, can you help? I'm sure many of them will come forward because they feel that Anglo-Indian schools could enrich our country further.
FAPS at that time was considered one of the top schools in the country. So to be in FAPS, it was a real honor. I remember, there were other schools at that time as well which had just come up, but we preferred FAPS. My father preferred to send us there.
And there weren't many Anglo-Indian students?
That's the funny part. It was mainly Punjabis, very few Anglo-Indians.
Clayton Bastian remembers questioning Major General Williams, who succeeded Frank Anthony in 1993.
I took up the problem about Frank Anthony School in Chennai. Since Delhi and Calcutta and Bangalore had schools, but Chennai hasn't any Frank Anthony school. And he said, young chap, you show me the land. He said, you show me the land and I'll build the school, he said.
So this Anglo-Indian education, if I could put it that way, it has really helped many of our people in the country.
I think they have been the backbone of our growth. There is no doubt about it. Absolutely no doubt. And it goes to the Anglo-Indian community because their contribution via education has been absolutely amazing. And we owe a lot today, at least personally, my family owes a lot to Mr. Frank Anthony himself. Mr. Burroughs also did a great job, I remember him.
The ICSE Board of Education, arguably the best in the country, was set up thanks to the painstaking efforts of A.E.T. Barrow and Frank Anthony. Neil O'Brien, who retired from the board a few years back, was perhaps the last Anglo-Indian to head it.
All I can say, it's sad and it's pathetic. We have lost control. What was ours is now being usurped by a couple of people who are in no way Anglo-Indian, who cannot identify with the community, and that is a sad commentary on the history of what Anthony fought for, and that's something which is very, very regrettable.
But back to the English language, which for close to 2 centuries was popularized across India, not by the British, but by the Anglo-Indians, and still is.
Teaching my mother tongue, which is English, and I trained myself up, and of course I did my training, and now I'm teaching in St. Mary's. So I thought, after teaching the students, the boys, I thought let us go and teach the adults too, so that they will do well in their respective fields.
Many of his students are working class or from the far suburbs.
I've been around to a lot of Tamil Nadu villages, teaching people spoken English, put them up in call centers. And here in Madras, if you get a person to work in a call center, they got to pay him something like 20,000, 25,000 rupees a month. But in the village areas, these girls, for 3,000, 5,000 rupees, the same job, you're very happy, you're very prosperous, and you're very thankful and grateful for what we have done for them.
There is no gainsaying the fact that Indians today are masters of the English language, and Anglo-Indians have to be up to it.
I think the Anglo-Indians have to really keep abreast with the changing language, because English is a living language and it's always changing.
I love the language. I've taken up right from scratch, and till today I still love it, I still study it, and I still learn it. And I continue to teach till my last breath.
One thing that I detested with them was, in spite of having a very good knowledge of English, they didn't put it into use, and they weren't that studious. They could have put in more effort, and they would have come out as successful students.
The community made an enormous contribution to education in terms of its schools at one point in time. It made an enormous contribution to healthcare at one point in time. Forgetting the railways, you have the business houses with the secretarial staff, with a large number of people. I don't know how many girls are now going into secretarial practice, but many of them are looking at IT rather than secretarial practice as such.
I decided it was time to step into my sister's office.
I don't think I faced any discrimination being an Anglo-Indian. In fact, it has always empowered me, made me resourceful. And the skills that I've learned, as I've mentioned earlier, being brought up in an Anglo-Indian household, part of an Anglo-Indian school, has enabled me to, empower the function that I work in. People look at me as a talent advisor, as a payroll advisor. In fact, being in HR, you get to see a lot of, the good, bad and the ugly.
Anglo-Indian teachers have always been in high demand at various institutions of learning, and many women ran their own dame schools. Some Anglo-Indian women today have capitalized on the demand for English language training in the city and various parts of South India. We spoke to a few of them.
They do a demo, then we sign up. So that becomes a 1 month, 2 month, or 3 months projects for students. Sometimes we even do for the staff who require English training. We do all English training for them. So besides that, I even recruit staff. Mainly I'm concentrating on the Anglo-Indians, because spoken English is something that we have command over. So we are the ones who can do it the best.
As an Anglo-Indian, we have the English as our strength. It's natural for us. And growing up in a family that was very particular about etiquette at a table or etiquette wherever you go, the way you carry yourself has taught me a lot to, I could impart that onto others who never had that opportunity. And I did attempt to train about 10 Anglo-Indian ladies, because I feel, maybe they need some guidance as to, they don't need to go out and work. They can just use what they have in them to employ themselves, to get employment for themselves.
This is women's empowerment.
Yes, this is women's empowerment.
Today's Anglo-Indian woman is an empowered woman. She is resourceful, she is tactful, she is diplomatic. And yes, she balances home, she balances career, because at least in the IT field, it's not easy, where the expectation is work to have happened as of yesterday. So it's not an easy place to be in. I'm sure it's common for all women, but as I said earlier, to the Anglo-Indian parent, our children are our priority, and we go all the way to ensure that we give the best to both the worlds, at home and at work.
Another thing I would have liked is to get these self-help groups going. And even after I left, I wanted to follow up, because Clarice was willing to help out in that, a Tamilian lady. She was doing that. She used to see where these workers, construction laborers and all are there. And then she'll come there and she'll sell her idlis and dosas and all that stuff. And she was making money, and finally she became part of a self-help group. And by the time she was done, she had her own bike, and she had all kinds of facilities to help her and all that.
So you're looking in terms of an Anglo-Indian self-help group.
Yes, I would like that. It would be so nice if we could start.
First of all, we have to have get-togethers where we motivate our children not to stop
with +2 or an ordinary undergraduate. They have to see that they reach the top. Whichever ladder they climb, they have to reach the top. No, don't settle for this centers, call centers, or any ordinary job, because we have English. We are being misused by some people who don't know the language also. Okay, they take the work from us and they develop skills. We have to go for entrepreneurships.
We need to raise our children to conquer not just the stereotype jobs, defined for Anglo-Indians. I think we need to encourage them to tread on professional areas like life sciences, software development, technology, and make them ready for the future.
We get a lot of Anglo-Indian students who come here, they come to take the IELTS, even though English is the mother tongue for the Anglo-Indians, but we believe that there is a syllabus, a structure. They have to get a very good score, especially for immigration, they have to score 7 and above. So they come to us, we do the training for the IELTS, for the PT. Some of them have come for GRE.
Debbie has helped many students go overseas for studies. She also helps applicants obtain ancestry visas to the UK.
Apart from this, we send people to the UK who have their ancestry in the UK, those who had their grandparents born in the United Kingdom. We help them in migrating. We do the documentation, we help them with whatever certificates they have. We tell them the process. Some of them have gone, they're very happy, they come back to us and thank us.
I asked Debbie if she faced difficulties as a woman in a man's world.
I don't think I encountered any such obstacles. I derived this boldness from my mother. She was a very bold lady. When my dad passed away, at a very young age, she raised all 3 girls. We had no relatives in Madras. So living in a village, I grew up to be a very bold woman.
My mom was a teacher?
Yes.
There is no doubt about the primary role of the mother in shaping the growth of her children.
Daddy was always out. He's a railway driver. Most of the time he's out, never in. And his trips were all 2 days, 3 days. He went to Cochin, Madras. So my mother, I was more attached to my mommy.
My mother was very, very particular. That's why both of us are what we are today, because of my mother. Because my father was most part of the time out on tour, being a railwayman. He was out on tour. He would come in only on the Sunday morning and leave Sunday evening again.
The whole responsibility of the home, the children, the family's welfare rests with the woman. If the mother is strong and a good woman, the family will succeed.
Did the thought of leaving India to settle overseas ever occur to you?
Never, ever. Never, ever. Though many of our colleagues in the army those days, they all used to say, come on, why do you want to go back to Civvy Street? We're all going, come on, let's go. And many of them are doing very well today. And my husband said, that's the one thing I won't do. And then he would turn to me and, would you like to go? And I would say, certainly not. And I do not regret one single bit.
You really love India?
I love it.
I asked the White sisters why they chose to stay back when their entire maternal side emigrated to Britain in the 1940s.
Have you been to England, Richard? Have you been there?
No.
Life is
So
to yourself. You're independent.
Selfish.
You don't know what's happening next door.
Here you have people coming to visit
You're so
you.
prim and proper. Good morning, Mr. Whatever.
You can't go to anyone's house without making an appointment. Here everything is free.
You walk in, walk out in anyone's.
Their fondness for Vepery and Madras is palpable.
Smithfield is on Pelmo Barracks, but we
Smithfield
had
was
Savoy.
here.
Savoy was famous for its Japanese cakes, and then they had even a lodge where a lot of bachelors used to stay there. Savoy used to compete with Whitefield. They were opposite.
I don't know, I think they lost it now, but those days it was one of the best ice cream shops. The Whitefield on the corner of, I think Clements Road now, they're there. But I think they're still there. The biscuits are still amazing. We get those little animal biscuits, and those little coin-looking biscuits. Beautiful.
The Vepery branch of the All India Anglo-Indian Association has about 300 members, and Elvina did exceedingly well as its president, often chipping in with her own funds. Dr. Beatrix D'Souza fondly remembers how this branch had started years ago.
And later you had these, Anglo-Indian men meeting in Moore Market, to buy the pork or all that sort of thing. So he met I think he met Mr. Clarkson of Vepery there. So in a sense, the idea of starting the Vepery branch was born in that meeting at the pork stall in Moore Market.
When I was there, I ran dances for 3 consecutive years. Massive profits we made at Shiraj Hotel. In fact, we catered for 600 guests. It was overflowing. We had to just scribble on a piece of paper and allow them inside. We made profits ranging from 2 to 2.5 lakhs, which we distributed for the needy, paid fees for the children's school and college fees, uniforms, shoes, school bags, etc.
What is the most challenging thing to run a branch?
See, in my view, the most challenging thing is our membership presently and all along has been from members who are average and below average. We are not able to get in or romp in people who are entrepreneurs and in different professions. They are not becoming members of our association.
Adjacent to Vepery is Newtown, another stronghold of the community.
I actually am from Newtown. Newtown is no longer called Newtown now, unfortunately. It's now called Pyramid. So if I've come from Newtown and Denver comes from Roypuram, so there you see the kind of movement of the Anglo-Indians within the city of Madras.
Denzel Dubia remembers the serenading batches during Christmas.
We used to have a healthy competition with Georgetown. Georgetown was the Duran boys, clarinet players and all. And they had a spiffling batch. And we were here. In Newtown, there was a lead singer, Pat Draper. It was led by Bertie Hurft. Bertie Hurft was the bandmaster.
But even these could turn ugly.
When they come serenading boys from that town, it's only the Anglo boys that time. They come with a carol singing and yet one scrap. That's a normal thing that happens in part of the community. Go for a dance, bill, bang up, top.
Occasionally, if someone has a little too much to drink, out comes the knives and all. Suddenly we see someone holding the gut. I think that Bagana once, Richard Bagana, once, I remember.
He was injured, is it?
He was injured. Okay. And he came to Pat Brisson and said, "See Pat, what they did to me." Small mafia dons, the Hunters, the Brissons and the Moles.
Those who have moved overseas remember their times here with fondness.
The beef cost 1 rupee 80 paisa and mummy would give me 2 rupees because I had to pay 15 paisa, 10 paisa for the cycle. I would take the cycle, put it away, far away to save that 20 paisa that I can buy something with it. But it was 1 rupee 80 paisa was a kilo of beef at the time when I used to go and buy it.
Okay, and what you did with the 20 paisa?
Bought jignut balls, any chewing gum or any chocolates or anything of that sort.
We met with a popular resident of Newtown.
Muthukarna Street is the first street, then the Salvation Army Road, I don't know the name, but 2nd Street, 3rd Street, 4th. Manu Smith also stayed there.
Maynard is a drummer numero uno, following in the footsteps of his late dad Noel, who had once taught the famous Tamil percussionist Sivamani to drum.
The whole Jing Bang was from the all musician family. My mom's elder sister, her husband was Trevor, who was in the Navy as well, Trevor Fernandez. So that's how Rodney Fernandez, Willis, all cousins.
Now how many families will be there? Any clue?
I think there are about 4 families only there. The last were to move is Clarksons. From Muthukarna Street, who was a teacher in Dufton, Clarksons. They moved out. Then Alfie De Cruz family. They were the last to move out. Because my grandmother's house, Fernandez, they moved out somewhere in the late 80s.
Maynard was instrumental in organizing the Madras Musician Day at Music Musicals on Mount Road on the 22nd of November 2016, which was attended by most Anglo-Indian musicians of the city. I asked Mike Fernandez how he balanced his railway job with the demands of being a musician.
Yeah, we used to adjust our duties, take leave sometimes, and want some emergency. We used to adjust our duties. I haven't taken a day's leave without permission. No absentees. In my 40 years and 5 months in service, there was never a day I was absent from.
We caught singer Richard Nathan in a sentimental mood.
It's a song dedicated to Jesus, and I thank him for the wonderful gift he has given me, given so many other good musicians that we have here. God bless them. God bless the souls of all the other good musicians that we had here also, who are not there today with us. And some of our musicians also are struggling, We really feel bad about them. I hope we come up with something so that we can do something to help them also.
We also spoke to an exceptional clarinet player, now in Melbourne.
In St. Thomas Mount, I used to mostly conduct the choirs and other stuff. But when I went into Melbourne, I decided that I was not going to conduct anymore, and I wanted to play because I like playing much more. It gives me more pleasure and it's more relaxing.
The musical talent of the Anglo-Indian has been recognized by the wider Australian community.
They've learned to recognize it because there are lots of musicians and very good musicians as well. We have some of the musicians who are world-class standard. They play for lots of Australian bands. They play for lots of groups that come down from the US and the UK. They play with them and they don't have a lead guitarist or bass guitarist or something. So people have reached very good heights of musicality there.
One of these is Tommy Smith. In Madras, one of the popular haunts of musicians for their practice sessions is Vinay Vincent Studios at Kodambakkam.
It's the most fun when the Anglo-Indian musicians come here for the rehearsals. There's a sense of, an overall, the happiness level is far higher when they come in and, both off stage and on stage. During the rehearsals, there's always a lot of joking and laughing, and also when they take their breaks, so it's definitely a good time to come in when they rehearse.
Which musician rips your head off by his jokes and all that?
That would have to be Tenny Allwood, I think.
Unfortunately, Tenny passed away before we could interview him.
In terms of musicianship, I think people like Patrick Fernandez, Donald Murray, Frank Dubia, these are some of the names which come to mind. Keith Peters, of course.
For some reason, music has been second nature to the Anglo-Indian. We happened to meet a former student of La Martiniere, Lucknow.
Of course, in school I had many friends, Anglo-Indians, but some notable ones, particularly from La Martiniere, Cliff Richard, was then Harry Webb. He used to come to Delhi and sing, and we didn't know much till much later, when the Beatles and everybody became famous, that Cliff Richard was actually the Harry Webb we knew, who used to come from Lucknow. His father had the eight-wheeler, between Lucknow and Kanpur, they had and then Tony Brent used to sing in Volga, and Tony Brent, of course, became famous, and of course in Chennai you had Engelbert Humperdinck.
Indeed, Madras has given society international stars such as Engelbert and Pete Best, and national ones such as Frank Dubia and Chad Bronkhorst in jazz, Keith Peters in Tamil film, and Paul Jacob in fusion music.
But once I went to meet Ilayaraja sir, just like that, because I was shooting nearby, I saw one guy sitting equally with Ilayaraja. See, equally it means a lot in Tamil industry because nobody sits next to Ilayaraja. Okay, and this guy was sitting very casually with Ilayaraja and talking like a childhood friend. And I know that guy. Hey, how come this man is here? I tried to, practice this thing. That was Frank Dubai. He called me, hey Nazar, what? Hey, nice to see you as an actor. Sir, thank you for remembering me. How can I forget? So, how are you? Everything fine?
I asked Paul Jacob, the bass guitarist, about his take on music.
For me, I don't like the idea of putting music in boxes. When people say, "Oh, you're doing fusion, or you're doing rock, or this is jazz," no, it's music. For me, everything is music. It could be, a combination of all kinds of things. And in fact, I had the privilege of working with one of the legends of Carnatic music, Dr. Balamurali Krishnan. And he's the one who really gave me the strength to pursue this thing without any bias. The Carnatic classical music is mostly dominated by the Brahmin community, but he is the one who broke that idea for me. He said, "No, music is not anybody's family property. Everybody has a right to learn every kind of music, and so don't feel bad about it, and don't restrict yourself." And in fact, we put a very amazing idea together with him where we had him on the same stage with folk artists. It never happened in the history of India that a classical musician shares a stage with a folk artist. We were the first people to do it.
Your folks were also musicians, like mom and dad? Or?
We were quite a musical family, and starting off also with, as far as I know, my grandparents were very much into music. And in those days, music was very much part of the community. And in fact, both my grandparents' houses were centers of music.
Mary Collins, Micheline Igayemi, Marcia Nicholas, and Keith Robson are outstanding vocalists, while Orlando, Freddie Doggett, Royden Courier, and Barry Di Rosario are talented crooners, musicians, and band leaders. The list could go on and on. Bruce Lee is a consummate guitarist sought after by the who's who in the industry. Maynard has fond memories of yesteryears.
Dennis Boss, a specialist, he used to come and make dol for my grandmother. Big kadai, so we get big family, no? So big kadai, so she'll say, stir it, Dennis, stir it. So he, not kalkal and dol for one family, for all families. Because he's like, even neighbors, that's how the tradition was, no? Sharing.
That time when we were kids, when my mom used to sit to bake the cake, to make the cake, sit and churn and churn and churn, quietly we'll put a finger in while she's churning itself and take and maybe licking up the, the flour when it's raw. Nowadays children don't want to even come to the kitchen to see what we are doing, how we are doing. That enthusiasm that we used to have during that making the wine, the ginger wine, and really that only comes from the Anglo-Indians of those days. Slowly it's dying out, but we only hope that it will, come back again. As
Anglo-Indian cuisine is in a class of its own, not just in India, but internationally.
Cooking is passion and it's near my heart. And in fact, my dad was very fond of cooking, and we had a huge house. And we had these Yorkshire pigs, and we used to, slaughter those piglings. We used to do the stuffing.
In Jhansi?
In Chennai.
Chennai, where? Which part of Chennai?
In Villibakam. We had about 25 acres land over there. and we used to split roast the suckling pig. So when I came into the hotel line, I used to tell the bosses, you would stay aside, let me do it the way I do it at home. And I carry a lot of Anglo-Indian traditions with me.
Anglo-Indian food evolved. For example, they still use, the Anglo-Indians use coconut oil in Kerala, they use mustard oil in Bengal. So Anglo-Indian cooking was influenced by the local cuisine also. For example, the fish curry, the curries, we use more coconut in our curries. They don't use much coconut in the curries in Bengal and Bombay. That's the difference. And also certain curries, like for example, there were certain like chicken country captain and all that. Not many Anglo-Indians had it in the south. There were a few dishes that were slightly different.
I used to travel with my dad to Calcutta, to Delhi, to Bombay, to different parts, and we used to taste the running room food over there. The waiting room used to be called the running room, and the taste of each state I still remember. And when people cook, I'll tell my cooks, you're from this part of the country. Even if they make a gulab jamun, I'll tell them, you're from Gwalior, you're from Madras, you're from Khandwa.
She said, my son, the best way to a man's heart is through his stomach. And I know how my children eat, so you have to feed my son.
Which is your favorite dish, Sandra? Okay, your favorite Anglo-Indian dishes, name a few.
Anglo-Indian dishes is like the famous coconut rice, the ball curry, famous biryani, a duck roast. Usually we don't miss an occasion without the duck roast, and the vindalus, the pork vindalu and the chops and all those things.
Celia White recalls her early days as a doctor in Bahrain, where her American friend refused to believe she was Indian and wanted to taste her home-cooked food.
The hospital chaplain's wife said, how can you say you're Indian? You don't look Indian, you don't talk Indian, and you don't dress Indian. When I shifted into another flat into the hospital campus, they said, now we're coming over to your place for dinner. Please cook us something that you would have had at home. So I made the chicken roast and the stuffing and the tribal. And you still call yourself Indian?
I asked Lionel about his children's food habits in Melbourne.
Because even though they have a lot of Australian friends and been influenced by them to eat pies and pizza and Italian food and the Greek food, they still come back to the curry and rice made by the aunties.
And the Anglo cuisine, which I'm so sorry to say, it's going more the Indian way, but the traditional pies and shepherd's pies and the mashed potatoes and all, the roast potatoes are still traditionally done the way we do it. In fact, when I go to do a festival in any other foreign city like Switzerland or something, I do it the way the Anglo-Indians do, because it's appreciated more than, an Indian Aru Jira. I'll do it the way the Anglo-Indians like it, and people will want to know why the earlier chefs didn't get so many good comments as what you got. But it was what I felt cooking from the heart.
There were typical Indian dishes too, cooked in Anglo-Indian homes, but even these have been changing with the times.
See, in those days we never had what is called sambar. We never cooked sambar. We had dal but not sambar as such. So that has changed a little bit. Otherwise we have the same thing, the stews, the curries, they're all the same, not changed. I think now we cook, my mother would never cook Chinese food, North Indian food. Now we tend to make Chinese, we eat Chinese and we eat a bit, you can make a bit of North Indian food, etc.
We asked Jennifer Arul what her favorite dish was.
I would say masala chops. Masala chops, yes, I think that's my hot favorite. I can't wait when friends of mine make it. I love it. I love it.
What would you combine that with? By itself? Or
No, standalone. Standalone, yes.
Facebook is full of pages or posts devoted to Anglo-Indian cooking. Rachel Nigley is an avid cook, and her dishes have attracted attention.
Snake gourd stuffing, chops, battle steaks. Then I make him, what else I make him? The biryani as usual. I'm making biryani, roast, pot roast, then baked ribs. Then what else you want?
As you can see, we took our camera into her kitchen. Her menu for the day was oxtail vindaloo and devil pork. The pork she had marinated in wine.
Wine tenderizes the meat. It tenderizes the meat and makes it juicy. And at the same time, it keeps the meat firm.
And the oxtail looked softer than usual.
You don't get because the meat gets caught in your teeth and you don't enjoy it. You should have the meat literally falling off the bone. It's like paya.
Apart from this, I did in Singapore Marco Polo Hotel. They wanted an Anglo-Indian food festival because they wanted to know how does a foreigner survive in India when he comes. And I showed them how they replace different things and how different things is done.
Can you give an example?
An example is the typical glassy curry. It's a very, very popular Anglo-Indian dish. And this is made out of sweet potato. And because of the spice, they put the sweet potato to make the dish sweet. And it's one of the traditional dishes. And usually they add pineapple juice or something, but that was mainly to tenderize the meat. Because the beef was always considered to be hard and tough. So,
Mark remains one of India's top chefs and is recognized internationally. In recent times, he has focused on teaching cuisine to students.
I was wanting to work only for 1 year in teaching. But giving back to the society, leaving your knowledge, and when children come and tell you they have studied under you, they have worked, because I motivated them to do such thing. That feeling is more to me now than someone telling me that I cooked good food.
Okay, great.
And this line is not an easy line. We start in the morning at 7 o'clock and we end at night 11, 12 o'clock. Every single day. The only thing which motivated me was music.
Besides Rachel and Mark, the Facebook posts by Sandra Gorn of Melbourne and Shireen Daly of Madras, Caroline De Cruz of Perth and Jenny Mallon of Kingsclear near London have been quite popular. Caroline's page, The Anglo-Indian Kitchen, has in a short time become a veritable treasure trove of Anglo-Indian recipes. Jenny Mallon's book, A Grandmother's Legacy, has won the Gourmand World Cookbook Award in 2017, much like Bridget White of Bangalore before her. Jenny's ancestors and their recipes have had a strong Madras connection.
Goes right back to 1844. So the very first pages are my great-grandmother Wilhelmina, and she was only 15 years old as a bride, Memsahib bride.
The handwriting changes when Wilhelmina's daughter takes over, and then again when the book's handed down to her granddaughter, and so on, down the generations. Jenny's collection of published recipes is interwoven with memoirs of her family's life in India.
Life is fragile, the book is fragile, it has to be cherished and it has to be loved. And there's a real nostalgia now for old recipes.
And so these old recipes will live on to tantalise the taste buds of generations to come. Nikki Mitchell, BBC South Today.
We think of pepper water as a very everyday sort of food. When you go to Australia, it became something very special, pepper water and dal and all that. And I think somewhere in Canada, they have a thing called pepperwater.com. So pepper water has become a kind of an identity sort of thing for the community.
So do you think your children will retain some of your Anglo-Indianness?
Definitely. They're all Anglo-Indians apart from the food. They get fed up sometimes with the Anglo-Indian food, with all our curries and rices and pepper waters. They ask mommy to make them some pasta and mince or some Mexican or, other different foods.
Pork vindaloo has been an old favorite of the Anglo-Indian community, and I asked an ace cook how she went about preparing it.
What I used to do, put all the masalas and marinate the pork with vinegar, ginger garlic paste, cumin powder and chili powder, saffron powder and marinate it.
For how long?
A couple of hours. And then morning I will cut some onions, tomatoes, fry them nicely. When they're fried nicely, I will put this marinated stuff in it. And then last of all, when it's cooked, I'll put some vinegar and dry it up nicely.
And what kind of masalas are these?
Up to now, we still do our own. We grind it in the mill, chili, coriander. Our masalas, we dry it out. I still do it. Dry it out, grind it, and keep it fresh.
Why you don't buy it from the shop?
I don't like.
There are those who miss the old grinding stone, which help bring out the true flavor of the spices.
At one time I used to do, now I've forgotten it, because that needs the grinding stone, because the other masalas don't turn out the same. We used to grind that jeera, ginger, garlic, and then make it, the pork vindaloo, and it used to be really good. But now it doesn't taste the same.
It is about time Chennai gets its authentic specialty Anglo-Indian restaurant. We owe it to the city.
We can go for this option, we can open a restaurant there, and whatever support from finance from my side, I can finance it. This is a good idea. Once we start this, it is done in Chennai, this will naturally pick up in Bangalore or Calcutta or anywhere, wherever the Anglo-Indian community is.
A recent novel by Keith Butler of New Zealand, The Secret Vindaloo, has used Anglo-Indian cuisine as a telling metaphor. Keith's origins are in Calcutta, but he was in Madras in December 2016 for the launch of his book by Anglo Inc. in the presence of members of the Madras Book Club.
You've married an Anglo-Indian?
Yes.
So do you get good vindaloos at home?
Yes, we do. Secret vindaloos.
Yes. What about the cuisine, Anglo-Indian cuisine? A word on that?
Well, actually, Keith is the cook for the family, and he cooks lots of great food.
Like Keith, most Anglo-Indian men are good cooks. Andre is one of them. We met him on a Monday morning, and he offered us dosas and chicken roast for breakfast when he realized we hadn't eaten.
So besides that, I love cooking. Whenever I can, I cook up a meal. Saturdays, Sundays, whenever I'm at home, I cook up a meal. Or whenever I feel like cooking something different, I want to eat something, I cook. I've been cooking for a few years now. I'm a decent cook.
What type of cooking do you like?
I like Italian continental cooking, but I love Indian food also.
Alfonso Forbes, who worked in the governor's band at Bombay, has a pan-Indian touch to his cooking. He is proud of his cutting and cleaning skills.
So now I can cut at least about 10 kilos of onions within 15 or 20 minutes. I still got the practice with me. I told him I got a lot of good different types of knives too. And I get ready with the butcher too, and I started cutting out cut meat like this. Then I went into the North Indian side. Those guys, I've seen them how they used to cook. Plain saffron, plain green chilies, different vegetables. Don't put that curry powder, don't put this curry powder. When I was in Asia 82, for the last 3 months we were in the army base. So those guys used to eat only this type of food. And so I learned that also in game. Stand in the dekshi and start jumping there, cleaning those potatoes, these sticky potatoes. The cooks used to stand and jump in that because such a lot of people had to cook from. When I was in Asia 82.
They used to cook, clean sticky potatoes by jumping on them?
Jumping there because that's such a lot of them. So,
but they would smash the potatoes?
No, not smash it. Just somebody do it. And we used to see that.
Without smashing it?
Yeah. So I used to bring that sticky potato and I started doing it at home. My wife doesn't like all that.
Those who have emigrated overseas are even fonder of cooking.
What's your favorite dish? What do you normally like to cook? Do you like vindaloos or?
Vindaloo. I like make a lot of stew, beef stew. My granddaughters love that. And roasts. I like making roasts. Chicken roast or beef roast or pork roast.
Ian's daughters-in-law, one hailing from South Korea and the other from the Dominican Republic, love Anglo-Indian food. So too do his granddaughters.
So how do they take to Anglo-Indian cooking?
They love it. They like it. They're growing up now and they eat pepper water, rice, and biryani, whatever I make, palau, whatever you want to call it. Not too spicy. I don't make too spicy for them,
That's the splendor of Anglo-Indian cuisine. Neither too spicy nor too bland. Neither too Indian nor too continental. But a delectable mix of the two. In many ways, food has become a metaphor for the community.